Oh, I love
So
that song.
the stuttering, you just bullied it out of yourself.
Yeah, Nikki got me the job that cured my affliction. It was first love, not a great love. Thank you.
Hey listeners, welcome to the show. I'm Billy with an IE.
And I'm Lara.
And Mark.
Welcome to the Vampcast, lurking on Pirate Core Entertainment Network. We are a spoiler-filled podcast covering all things vampire-related, or sometimes vampire-adjacent. And currently we are dedicating our podcast to AMC's Vampire Lestat, which used to be titled Interview with the Vampire. We are doing our best to avoid future book spoilers, but in our discussion, but this is a spoiler-filled podcast about the episode itself. However, if you are interested in book talk, we will add a little bit of that to the end of our podcast. Today, we will be covering episode 3 of the Vampire Lestat entitled Toronto.
Daniel Malloy finally secures a filmed interview with the elusive Lestat de Lioncourt, determined to expose the truth behind the vampire rock star's carefully crafted image. As Daniel's relentless questioning pushes Lestat to revisit painful memories, Lestat reflects on his troubled youth, the origins of his childhood stutter, and the passionate relationship that changed his life in Paris. Meanwhile, Louis embarks on a violent quest for revenge in Detroit, settling old scores while confronting the cost of his own rage. As past and present collide, both vampires are forced to face the wounds they have spent centuries trying to outrun. Before we begin, I would like to offer a trigger warning. This episode covers topics such as sexual assault and the horrors associated with it. We will be talking about it at length as it's an important part of the episode. If that will disturb you, then feel free to wait till our episode that covers The Devil's Road is released and join us for that conversation. You've been duly warned. So we do have some returning main casts.
Yep. Delaney Hales returns in the role of Regina.
And our new cast will, a couple of new cast members feature Nicolas de l'Enfant, Lestat's first love, but maybe not a great love, played by Joseph Potter. And we have the vampire Magnus, Lestat's maker, played by Damian Atkins.
And we're going to start with some initial thoughts. I'll go ahead and start with mine. So this episode, I had to watch several times. And the first time I watched it, I was pretty shocked by some of the things I saw inside of it. I loved it, though. I loved how they reimagined the relationship between Magnus and Lestat as a sort of fanboy going after a celebrity kind of thing. And then the song he makes because of it. Mm-hmm. I also loved how Lestat does an official introduction to his documentary. And I love that they use parts, dialogue from the book, or not dialogue, but some of the writing from the book to do the introduction. Some of the things he says when he's talking to Daniel comes exactly from the first pages of the Vampire Lestat, which I loved. And I was like, you can tell you've read the book a bunch of times, and you can literally recognize the words from the beginning of the story.
I recognize
in the series, right? And then, as disturbed as I was by some of the things that were in the episode, because things like sexual assault and rape are really sensitive topics for me, I liked it. I like that they did that. I love that the show does not play around. I love that it's not afraid to be messy. I love that it's not afraid to touch on sensitive topics and do it unironically. And it doesn't feel like there's any kind of trepidation when they do it either. It's very bold how they go about these topics. And I appreciate that quite a bit, because what better setting to do that in than the world of Anne Rice?
Mm-hmm.
So those are my first initial thoughts about the episode.
What do you think, Mark?
I liked actually diving into Magnus and how Lestat was changed at one point, because if correct me if I'm wrong, it was very forced. And
you're right.
And he's still tormented in his own mind as he constantly sees visions of Magnus right there and tormenting him verbally.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got that hideous look to him. He's got that ugliness to him. And it's not as disturbing to see Lestat do that to others because he does it more in a witty way to do that to others. I think about Louis and anybody else who he had tortured, even with the little one.
Mhm.
And how she was, done and created at that point between him and Louis at that time. And it's just like, wow. And then on top of that, the whole interview and the whole
Mhm.
turnaround, screw Magoo, Mr. Malloy, that to me was like so devious because everybody was in a trance at that point.
I don't really think they were in a trance, but I think we'll get to that part
Yeah.
in one of our highlights.
But yeah, this had a lot of truth to it. I loved Louise' revenge tactics at the very end. It was so brutal, but that's the lover of horror in me. And the
Mhm.
way he was executing that in the name of her, and oh my goodness, Claudia, it's like he was tasked literally by them, but he had the pages and showing that he wanted to show sympathy to those that were captured at that time that were pretty much breeding farms for the
Mhm.
vampires too. There's an Uber all the way at the end. Go get it.
Yeah.
Things like that to me was very tactful, very well written. Obviously, very done very well, especially with what was it, Nicholas?
Mhm. Nikki.
His story
Mhm.
as well, and the psychological within it too, because there is a suicidal aspect within it, and you could see the torment in Lestat's face during that time, and it shows his first feeling for somebody who he's turned that he loved, and it just did not do well, and it showed that he did live through a lot, but it also shows that he didn't torment people as much as what he was through. It still kind of reflects on Magnus on that in that respect. In some people's minds, Lestat kind of lost his mind because of what Magnus had done to him. And then he's had to live 300 plus years to deal with all those ramifications and then to process that, you know, for some of us, we barely live 70 years old. Think about 300 years of living through all that and isolating yourself. Sophia herself would just throw dirt on herself and just hide for a millennia or whatever if she could, and then
Mhm.
come out and have fun with it. And then, oh, who's around? Okay, yeah, let's have fun. And that's about it.
Cool. Uh, I wrote this. This was excellent. My favorite episode so far. The writing was superb. Performances were amazing. And just the way they were able to balance the humor with the tragedy is just so well executed. The editing of I'm sure we'll get into this in the highlights, but the editing of Louis confronting Bruce along with the truth of Lestat and Magnus was just kind of mind blowing, and I loved it.
Well, we can start talking about our highlights, and as I wrote in mine, the parallels of transformation, like Lestat's transformation and Claudia's incident. This has been something that's been popping up on the groups, the Facebook groups, from time to time, which is the talk of how Lestat was essentially, in a way, um, I guess you can say he was kind of raped. He was taken and snatched from his bed, forced into a tower, and then had have vampirism forced upon him.
Hmm.
And I could start going into literary queer theory and things like that, get very scholarly about it and academic about it. But the simple fact is, Lestat was violated. He was violated, and that's how he became a vampire, through violation. And then the episode also talks about um, Claudia's revenge, or Louis's revenge, but in the name of Claudia. They talk about an interview with the vampire in the series, in the TV show, that Claudia spent a very awful few nights with Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
And during the interview with Louis, Daniel talks about how there's pages from her diary that are missing. When, in the previous episode, when Daniel and Louis are talking at dinner, and he says, "Unfortunately, I have to let my higher ups talk to you." Raglan James gives Louis a little packet, and inside that packet are the missing diary parts from Claudia's diary,
Oh,
which talk
really?
about
I didn't notice that. I thought maybe Louis just had them, like he
No,
kept them to himself.
that's what I got
Raglan.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Raglan gave him the diary parts. Which that means the Talamasca had Claudia's diary for a very long time.
Hmm.
And so I'm sure Louis read those pieces and he gave them to Louis on purpose so Louis would have the fuel necessary to dispatch Bruce. But he reads the diary to Bruce as he's essentially torturing him, which I thought was really cool how he disabled him. He comes and snatches parts of his
Oh, that was so horrific.
right. He snatches part of his vertebrae. It makes Raglan basically a mannequin after that.
Uh-huh.
But the way the writers chose to express what happened to Claudia, and I'm trying to be very tentative about my word usage because regardless of the fact that we're openly talking about it, it is a sensitive topic.
It
and
is.
I feel very strongly about this topic because things happen in people's lives, and sometimes people have this happen to them, and I can only imagine how helpless and out of control a person feels when this happens. I can only imagine how hard it is to make sense of the world afterwards, how a person's sense of security can be completely eviscerated by this kind of act. I also hate how casually it's done. But I remember hearing about, I think it's like Woodstock 96 or something like that, and how a lot of women were unfortunately violated at that music festival,
Mhm.
and how the people who did it, walked away from that incident without repercussions. So to see Louis getting revenge for Claudia was satisfactory in a lot of ways, but the words that Claudia uses to describe what happened to her, like how she felt like she was packed with dirt, and how she wanted to be nothing and know nothing and say nothing and do nothing, and it was just very heartbreaking for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's very heartbreaking for me. And then towards the end, when she says, "I hope that one day he feels as trapped and cornered as I do. I hope that one day he, experiences what I do." And then Louis does that. He takes away his autonomy. He snatches parts of his physical body away so he can't move anymore. And then he lights him on fire. And as great as that was, a small part of me is like, you deserve a lot worse than that.
Yeah, I feel
He
the
did.
same way. I thought Louis was only starting.
Right.
And what he needs to be done is, because Bruce was living all this time, all these decades, what is it, over a century and a half, 2 centuries, and got away with it and didn't feel the wrath as it should be. It should be slow, burning torment to him, in my opinion, because regardless of Claudia being a vampire at that time, but what he did to her was outrightly I don't have the words. And the fact that he was getting married to that woman, that other vampire too.
Yeah, Baby Jinx.
So Baby Jinx there as well. And of course they're going, what happened to him? It's like, really?
And I don't think we'll see the last of her.
I don't think
Picked
so
up the
either.
wedding ring, and and Louis left her alive.
Yeah. Another part of it that really disturbed me was how she said that he would say "I love you" to her sometimes, and that she found small comforts in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like how confusing how confusing to have something like that happen to you, and then the person who does it says "I love you" to you, and you're just like, wait, is this love? Is this what how love is manifested? And then on top of it, you see the only parents that she knows, her two dads, and
Mhm.
they can be tumultuous too and violent to each other too. And it makes the space in my heart for Claudia widen a bit deeper,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
I've loved Claudia from the beginning. I know there's some people out there who don't like her character either from the book or didn't like how she was portrayed in the show, but I've always loved Claudia.
So have I. So have I. Especially when she wants the same thing as everybody else,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and she finds it in Madeline, but unfortunately that doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
No,
Bruce was a sociopath deep down to the core.
Hmm.
And
I think he was also just someone who was given power and he realized like he could take advantage of that power.
he became the
And there's plenty
monster.
of people who are like that.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
like,
Laura, we
I'm going
talked
to use my
about
small amount of power to overpower someone with less power.
Yeah.
right, and Laura, we talked about in the promo episode. Well, I remember saying that vampirism wasn't a problem solver in this TV show because, as
Hmm.
I said, Louis, being a person of color in the not antebellum South, sorry, in the early 20th century South,
Mm.
um, vampirism did not solve his social inequalities.
Nope.
He still
Hmm.
had to toe the line. He still had to rely on a white man to move around freely and have autonomy in that society.
Yes.
And he struggles with that. And the same thing applies to Claudia.
Mm.
She's still looked as a young girl, and I would say girl because that's how people see her, also a young girl of color. And so she still experiences the same thing those people experience.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And
I
vampirism doesn't spare her that. And it's even worse because it's coming from another vampire.
And
Well, the
it's
line she
years.
says in her notes at the end that Louis reading, and I wish I'd written it down, but she said she said I thought I was the horror in the night. She thought she was the predator, the one stalking, and then she becomes the prey. And I think that was so um I wouldn't say eloquently because it wasn't eloquent, but the way they worked
It
that
was
into Magnus's attack on Lestat was amazing
mhm,
because we were getting these harsh and horrifying words from Claudia's diary talking
mhm,
about the things that Bruce did to her as we are visually seeing Magnus attacking
right.
Lestat, whereas in
Yes.
previously they played it almost romantic, like a music video. He
Right.
falls on the floor gently, and Magnus is gently laying his lips to Lestat, and then we see the reality that Lestat is showing to us in his mind, and it was nothing near that. He's being pulled around, he's being thrown over, tossed on the floor. Magnus is slitting his throat to force blood into his mouth, and like it's horrifying, but it's so crazy how they show those two parallels between the two
Mm.
as we're hearing Claudia's words superimposed over Lestat's visual attack. And, people are calling it a sexual assault. I mean, in a way, I mean, it definitely is just because in Anne's books, the sharing of blood is kind of considered a sexual
Mhm.
act. But I don't know, and I'm sure they kind of left it ambiguous as to whether Magnus sexually attacked Lestat too, because I don't
Well,
think we implicitly see it, but I
mhm.
think it's implied by the words that are
Yeah.
overlaid on the scene.
Yeah.
Well, I think of the Queen of the Damned movie with Stuart Townsend and Vincent Perez, and that transformation from Lestat from mortal to immortal is a lot more intimate. It's a lot more um, convivial. Um, Vincent Perez cradles him as he feeds him the blood,
Mm.
and he calls him my son in a very loving and compassionate tone. And he even instructs Lestat carefully and tenderly about the aspects of being a vampire. We don't get that with
No.
Magnus in this TV show. It is very violent. It is very forced.
Yeah, but
Lestat.
the song itself with the flip flop and everything is more romanticized
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the sense that I think what we're getting is with the video is the romanticism of what Lestat wants to portray it as, but the reality in his subconscious mind of what he truly remembers is horrific and painful, and it's him shoving it aside and living with this darkness inside of him.
Right.
And he cannot fathom, probably even to tell Claudia or even Louis at times. He probably didn't even mention it in depth to the presence of what they would think of how he was turned.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Louis was in the dark completely to some degree because he romanticized it to Louis. And then with Claudia, with the way she felt in her diaries and the way what had happened to her, because we saw how violent Claudia was when she was turned during the theater and what she was doing to others and how she was very vicious, her becoming the monster. And then the reflection of her in those 3 pages of what Bruce had done to her. A lot of it, I think, was deep down, if we got into the nitty gritty of those pages, would be of her feeling somewhat upset about her own actions of how she took out other people or turned other people as well. So it's something that's kind of missing, kind of alluded to some degree, or maybe it's just something I'm picking up from the writing in itself.
And I did want to mention that I mentioned the part about Claudia saying, I thought I was the horror in the darkness, because I'm sure that's how Lestat felt too. Like, he felt he was powerful. He was this big stage presence, he didn't think anyone could really overpower him. And then he was kidnapped in the night by Magnus and assaulted. So he probably felt like that his position was switched to from this, I mean, not so much predator, but he was at the height of his like popularity and his life, and probably didn't think that anyone could prey on him either.
And it's interesting how he starts reciting prayers to God while it's happening too. This man who, in the books, he's professes to be an atheist during this time period with Nicolas de l'Enfant. They have these moments in the tavern in the Auvergne where they call it the golden moment, where they have clarity about something, or one of the parts of the clarity is there is no God. So the contrast to him being a professed atheist, and then he's being attacked by this supernatural being, and he starts reciting prayers to God from memory, mind you. And so I loved that dichotomy, those two things. Everyone, well, I say this gently because I'm sure a lot of atheists would be very angry if I said this to them face to face. But it seems to me, in a lot of instances, that everyone is a non-believer until something scary happens. And so
there is a saying
moments,
that says there are no atheists in a foxhole.
Right,
that
exactly.
is true. Yeah.
Right. And this would be a perfect example of that. Obviously, it's fiction, but still, it resonates with a reality of humanity or of human life.
Well, it's man's feeling and last-ditch effort to realize it's like, I'm fallible, I could die, I don't know what the outcome beyond this would be.
Right.
That's the whole issue regarding that. Whenever anybody who is like that, like you said, of those people, and it makes me laugh when it's like, oh wait, you're talking about God? Yeah.
Right.
I thought you didn't believe in that.
For the record, I'm not a Christian or anything like that. I don't have a professed, faith or whatever. I have a general idea of, higher power, but I don't have any institutionalized faith. I'm just saying, in general, when a person is dealing with a scary moment, they start to look beyond themselves for help. And so Lestat, exhibits that in
that could be anything. That could be Baphomet, for all we know. It could be Mustafa.
Right, exactly.
It could be anything. It's like it goes across multiple different various religions. Aries, please, I need your help. God, help me. Things of that nature. Because there are so many religions that are very similar in the impact of what they do. And it's the same story, but told in different variations in different areas of the world. But you're brought up on that, and those people who deny it after a while, they cling to that because they were brought up on that, and it's the last thing that they think of before anything tragic happens to them, or they cannot even comprehend, because God forbid if aliens show up on the Earth, it's like, oh my goodness. You know.
I was going to mention also, Billy, and I don't think it's a big book spoiler, but Lestat was very religious as a child. He was raised Catholic, and they were going to take him to the monastery because they felt he had a very spiritual soul, and so that's why they wanted to take him to the monastery. But he loses his faith in God because when he's in the monastery and also when he's taken away from the theater, he always asks for God's intervention and it never comes.
Right.
So I will move on to my first favorite highlight, and that is the vis-a-vis between Daniel Malloy and Lestat. So Lestat feels that he finally owes Daniel, he needs to throw him a bone because Daniel helped rescue him when he was being attacked in the hotel room. And so they sit down. Yarda's been sitting there as his seat warmer, I guess, until Lestat gets there. And as they approach the place where they're going to be doing the interview, Gabriella sees Yarda and gives him the weirdest look because he obviously looks like her son. And they start talking, and this is just like two mean girls just fighting each other because they both have the worst comebacks to each other and everything, and they're just so good. They both have wicked little forked silver tongues because they just love to bat at each other. So Malloy is trying to dig deeper with Lestat, and he's just prodding him. And I love the scene where Lestat starts to act like he's getting really upset because no one's coming to his shows and nobody cares, and he covers up his eyes, and you think, oh my God, did Malloy finally get to him? And he just starts laughing maniacally.
Yeah.
And just making Malloy look the fool, which is sort of both of their MOs. I think Lestat kind of wants to make Malloy look foolish, and Daniel's just trying to crack Lestat. So they're just going at each other. And he finally reveals something important. Like, obviously, he does the illusion of his maker, Magnus. He's not ready to share that story. So he covers it up with this pseudo-romantic story of being turned into a vampire. But there's a point where he says, "You're in my eye line," and he looks over, and the guy who was doing the camera actually turns into Nicholas for a moment, and we get the little backstory of Nicholas, him coming into Paris, meeting Nicholas, falling in love and everything. And Malloy thinks he's getting the scoop of the decade. He's like all excited about it. And he says, "Oh, I think we missed one little point." Is when Yarda and Gabriella go to the bathroom and are really going at it like a couple of rabbits. And Gabriella definitely wants her son to know it. She's being so loud. And like Malloy's asking them to shut up. And I love when they come back and Lestat just looks over at Yard and blows him across the room.
Yeah, it was a kiss. Yeah.
Like, I've heard people complain that they're like giving Lestat powers he doesn't have. I'm like, it's funny. just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It breaks up the tension and it's funny. Anyhow, so, Malloy finally thinks he gets the scoop of the century with Lestat, and Lestat has a little bit of a breakdown as he gets to the end of his and Nikki's story, walks off, takes off in his car without Gabriella, and Malloy turns back to see the video, and there's nothing on it. It's just Lestat sitting there staring at the camera.
For over an hour.
Like Athanar, yeah. And he says he's like, what happened? And at first I thought maybe Lestat messed with the camera or something and paused it, but apparently he, telepathically relays his entire story to Daniel without
Hmm.
telling anyone else in the room because
Yeah.
he told Daniel, this is a gift to you. And it was like he told Daniel his story, which is what Daniel wanted, but he wasn't ready to share it with the world and he wasn't
Nope.
ready to share it with these bozos in the room. So he just telepathically told that whole story to Malloy. And at first, you think that, like, you don't suspect it because Gabriella actually looks over at Malloy. And I thought it was because he was telling pertinent parts of the story where she was in it. And she wasn't. She was just looking at Malloy because I think she knew what was going on.
I think Lestat says at the very beginning of the episode that immortals are very sensitive about telling of their mortal lives to each other, and that was kind of a warning to us, the audience, that the rule applies in that moment. He's not going to tell the world. He's going to tell Daniel, because I
Mhm.
feel like Daniel and Lestat have a weird kind of friendship. I think they like each other a lot. I think
Yeah.
Lestat loves that Daniel is such a wisecrack, and Daniel loves that Lestat is so hard to break because Louis proved to be easily manipulated.
Hmm.
And I think that was kind of boring to Daniel a little bit. I think he figured out Armand was the manipulator behind that whole scenario before Louis did, like way early into the interview.
Hmm.
But I think Daniel loves that Lestat is a wisecrack. And so he was going to give Daniel his life story, but he didn't want to share it to everyone else,
Yeah.
mortals alike. He
Yeah.
didn't want to share with that to everyone else.
And Daniel doesn't understand that. Daniel just
Mhm.
wants the story because he wants he said he's going to get, what did he say? He was taking it to Cannes. He thought he was
Right,
going to get an Oscar for it and everything. Like he wants the glory of
right.
having the story. He doesn't want this personal retelling that was just for him. He said it was a gift and it was just for Daniel, but
Yeah.
Daniel doesn't see it that way. And he said that it seeded within Daniel a hatred of Lestat that would later surface in the sun. So I'm looking forward to whatever that's going to be.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, the way I kind of addressed it and I thought about it at the end was that it was all in Daniel's mind, but the anger with it was like for him it was true deceit. But as you said, Lestat and vampires can't really give that information freely. So it was a gift to Daniel. Daniel doesn't see that, but he still holds on to that human world of like journalism and everything else. Whereas there's both respect for each other to some degree. Lestat likes to toy with Daniel and utilize him because Daniel's had his back. We've seen it in the hallway and everything else, and with people in front of him, including his bandmates. Whereas even with Lestat, it's like you're my vampire friend who I like to toy with, and that's what I feel is how it is. But now you could see it in Daniel's eyes at the very end when he finds out the reveal of everything too, and you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? How is he gonna egg on Lestat? What does he do to to get him back at this one little moment where I was banking on this for my applause, my recognition in the real world of humans, as it were, because he still thinks of himself in that world as that creative presence, and I
Right.
think he will not let that go too easily. And I'm waiting for that to happen, like you said before, the way they actually perceive it.
Yeah, I think Daniel and Louis are like your polite friends, your friends that you're very nice to, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't bust balls with each other like he and Lestat do.
Yep.
Right.
But for me, my first and favorite highlight overall, because we kind of went into several discussions of different highlights that I had some idea and perspective in. Mine would be the very end where Louis goes to the diner and we get to see Regina.
Mhm.
And of course, looks exactly like Claudia.
Hmm.
And it's kind of harkens back to Louis and his story because he still holds on to Claudia. Now, this could be a reincarnation. It could be a delineation from her family that looks just like her because some things like that happen. But it's him still holding on to the idea of Claudia. My question is, would Louis try to create Regina as a vampire to replace a more modern version of Claudia just to have a physical presence of what Claudia looks like today?
Laura, do you think that this is a reference to Merrick?
I don't think so. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see where her story goes because we just see her in her waitress outfit at the end, but I'm kind of hoping not.
Because we have no David Talbot, who's the main character in Merrick.
Yeah.
So what else
I
are
mean,
they
I
going
guess I
to
wouldn't
do?
be opposed to it if it is, but I think, yeah, I guess we'd have to know her backstory too, because I like Merrick's backstory, and that takes place in Louisiana. So,
Right.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, put that one on the back burner, and I guess we'll see what boils over. So, as far as our second favorite highlights, I put Louis' revenge tour, which we've talked about a little bit, but
Yeah.
I love that he walks up with machete in hand and just lops that first guy's head off so casually. He's like, "Hey, I got something to tell you," and he just like whacks it off, insults the guy as he walks up to the house, and I love the possum because my youngest daughter, is obsessed with possum. She even has a little possum tattoo on her ankle. So I got such a crack up when I saw that possum come up and start licking his decapitated head. And I think in the background you can actually hear one of the other vampires saying, "Hey, you caught another possum?" And then he gets his head whacked off. And then we see Louis kind of glide up to the porch or on top of the porch when they come to the door, when he knocks on the door. And I'm like, have we ever seen Louis use the cloud gift before? Or was that just a very elegant jump?
I think he might have the cloud gift now. But how did he get it so fast? Don't you have to live like hundreds of years?
Well, he
I
has
don't
been
know.
with Armand for a while. So.
I mean, he's what, over 100 years old now, so
Yeah.
maybe I don't know what the mile marker is in your vampire life before you get the cloud gifts, but I don't think we've ever seen Louis float up like that. And if he had it in Dubai, he didn't show it to us because all the bookcases were floating up above, and Armand was always the one who had to float up and get the books.
Yes.
So figuratively, or not figuratively, like literally, Armand is 500 years old, so half a millennia years old. So maybe around 500 years is the marker for. But see,
But
wait,
Lestat
hold
has
on.
it, and when he met Louis, he was only like 130, maybe.
But in his own words, I have the blood of Akasha in me.
Yes.
So
My dad will pay for it, no problem.
right, exactly. But I do recall that Louis also had the fire gift in Paris. So
And
maybe those
that's
rules don't
what
apply.
Armand taught him.
Yeah, maybe the rules don't apply. Maybe they're learned and not developed over
Yeah.
time. I don't know.
Anyhow, I just thought that was cool because I'm like, I've never seen Louis use the cloud gift. Like he rarely uses his gifts, it seems like, if he does have them. And then the part that I thought was pretty interesting is when he goes down into the basement and the people are in like almost like dog kennels with bathtubs, which why are they in bathtubs? But it reminded me of Silence of the Lambs when Jodie Foster's character goes down into the house and finds a body in the tub. I'm like, yeah, that gave it lots of creep factor to me, which I love because I love that this show has its humorous side and then it's very deep, like traumatic scenes, but also these scenes that refer to, as Louis saw last time, this sort of gothic horror. And this almost felt like Southern Gothic horror to me. In fact,
Right.
like it also gave me real feels of The Witching Hour, the book, as in going into this old farmhouse and it just being dark and dank and filled with like bodies and like old decay, you know?
Actually, to tap onto your Silence of the Lambs, I don't know if any of you both have looked at TikTok or memes of that case. when Lestat talks to his bandmates on the bus from the last episode, he has a robe that's very similar to
Oh, yeah.
I
Buffalo
mentioned that
Bill.
in our last podcast. I said,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I forgot
Lestat was
about
giving
that.
me heavy Buffalo Bill vibes in
Yeah.
that robe.
Mhm.
I thought that was hilarious when I
So
saw
someone on the writing team is a fan of Silence of the Lambs.
it. Yeah. Or
I should make that into like a little TikTok video with Q Lazarus in the background.
Yeah, I love that song.
all right. Not to be redundant there with her what you brought up last episode. For me, I really love the whole Nicholas situation, his decline, the breakdown. It shows a lot about suicide and everything else. Somebody who's breaking down in front of people who they love. And for him, it was Lestat trying to protect him, but the cutting off of the hand. Could you please do the other one? And it came time for him to be taken care of, and somebody else there who was stronger than Lestat had to do it because he was so upset, and you could see him. But during the decline, you still had something that I liked, which was a scene with Armand, Nicholas, and Lestat in the balcony. And Armand's, and this is Lestat's obviously interpretation of the conversation in their brain, saying, "Does Nicholas know about us?" And Lestat responding, "Us? What is us?" And was priceless, only to be topped by their later exchange. "I love you, Lestat," and he's like, "Christ, this is not room enough in this box for your desperation." And I just thought that was hilarious because the conceit in Lestat going, "Oh, my life's torn between these two," but we still have that one scene where he can't even dispatch Nicholas, who is his prime muse, his love. What is the truth?
Right.
We don't really know which is the truth at this point. Is it just his over embedded ego with that one scene in the balcony, or it's just this his true feeling in that room when Nicholas goes to extremes, and then he has to be taken care of because certain youngling vampires cannot get with the change, understand the lack of their mortality, and how they had to move because he was being too flamboyant in the orchestra. He was showing off his gifts way too much to the point where it was so distracting, to the point where he was erratic. He was losing his mind. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I think it's funny in that balcony scene when we see it from Armand's point of view, Gabriella's not even there.
Yeah.
She's missing. And now in Lestat's rendition of it, he's sitting there with Gabriella, and they're just kind of. I mean, Armand is a gremlin, but I do feel sorry for him sometimes because he's always feeling like a third wheel.
Yeah.
My second highlight was changing Magnus into an obsessive fan, and he kind of reminded me of Ricardo Lopez, who was this really insane Bjork fan in the I think it was like the late '90s. He was
Oh,
so
yeah.
insane that he sent her a bomb in the mail with some kind of acid in it that was supposed to explode on her when she opened it, and like he. Not to get too much into it because it's a very long story, but essentially this person was mentally disturbed and had a lot of body dysmorphia and obsession with Bjork, he's never seen in real life, but he records himself basically like in real time losing his mind. And I kind of think they did that not on purpose as a parallel, but they definitely did the need to consume your idols thing with this story dynamic, with this character dynamic. Magnus admires Lestat so much that he literally wants to consume him, obtain him, And then, like Ricardo Lopez, once he got what he wanted, you know, he offs himself.
Yeah.
And so that was the kind of real world parallel I got from that whole dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting that they came about it in that way because I
Mhm.
watched the After Dark, and they were going to tell the story in a very traditional fashion, the way it's kind of told in the books. And then Daniel Hart was in one of the writers' meetings and got up from the table, walked off, wrote this song. And he's like, why don't I write a song from Magnus's point of view? Because he's reading the books, and in the books, Magnus comes to every one of Lestat's performances, and he's like, oh, well, he's his biggest fan. So he
Mhm.
wrote biggest fan, brought it to Roland, and said, here's the song. And Roland like looked at it at first and was confused and didn't know what he was meaning, and then he's like, oh my god, this is perfect. And they came up with that conceit of having him be like this, having Lestat tell the story from this romantic 1980s music video point of view, playing this very sweet love song written by your stalker.
Oh my gosh.
But I thought it was brilliant. I thought it
Yes.
was brilliantly done. And I think Sam said that when he read that, he almost threw his laptop across the room because he thought that that's how they were actually going to play out the scene with Magnus. But then as he continued to read the script, he saw at the end where they actually show the true nature of his change. So he thought it was brilliant too.
Well, maybe
And
that's
that's one of the reasons it's my favorite episode.
I think maybe from Magnus's point of view, it was all very romantic.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
Yeah.
he thought he was doing something incredibly romantic, but from Lestat's point of view, it was pure violation.
hmm Like they say, villains never see themselves as villains.
Right.
They think everything that they do is justified for some reason.
Yep.
Right.
All right, so we moving on to third highlights.
Did you have one, Mark?
Not really. I think I've tapped on to everybody else's said. A lot of the episode is very much in the forefront based upon, trigger moments. That's
Right.
what really stands out for me. All the triggering moments that we have. The writing was immaculate, and it was done in a style where it is understood for most. A lot of people could turn around saying this is the worst, but I think it holds up probably so far as one of the better episodes that we've gotten so far this year. Every time an episode comes out, it gets better and better. And as we're recording this, episode 4 had come out already, but I have yet to watch it. So
Oh. It's interesting that you say that because people have been saying it's awful.
I know.
Much to
Some
my
people,
confusion.
but as I posted in one of the Facebook groups, it's the Rotten Tomatoes score, and it's 100% critics score, and I think 89% fan score. So there's probably some loud voices out there, but from everyone else, it seems like they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
As I was complaining before we started recording, people have been complaining a lot about how Gabrielle is depicted in the series, and it's for really silly reasons, in my honest
Mhm.
opinion. They're upset about how sexualized she is. And I find that to be kind of crass.
Mhm.
A character, as we discussed, like Gabrielle, who was constrained by her gender in the society that she existed in, was given ultimate freedom and the ability to be outside of civilization. So she's going to do what she wants,
Mhm.
and she can do what she wants.
Yes.
And the other part of that complaint is the fact that they've allowed the vampires to be sexual, like actually sexual, in this series. What TV show or movie has not given vampires explicit sexuality?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the vampiric nature in general is supposed to be a symbolic of sexuality, the
Right.
intimate way that vampires create each other. It's always been considered very a either warning or symbol of this sexual openness.
Right. Exactly. So things like the incestuous relationships and everything in between uh, is definitely within the realm of vampirism. And I don't, it's kind of just odd to me the puritanical sort of opinions people are starting to have about how the characters interact in the show. And it just kind of feels like those people don't understand vampires at all.
Yeah. Or I mean, I understand really wanting the book, and they're feeling that the show is giving Gabriella this sort of villainous turn because she's up to something, and I do agree that she does get very manipulative with Lestat, especially when she was fucking Yarda in the bathroom. He's like, she obviously wanted his attention, and
Right.
she wants to manipulate him by getting him angry, which,
Yeah.
we might see her do more often. But I don't mind. To me, I think I might have said this on the podcast once before, but she gives me very Cersei Lannister vibes. Like, she may be ruthless, but she does it for her own purposes. And why is that such a negative when a woman does it? When a man does it, he's almost considered powerful and strong. And a
Yeah.
woman does it, and she's demonized for it.
Well, and I agree with you on that. And also, so I guess it's just weird because like it's perfectly acceptable for her to abandon Lestat in the books and not
Hmm.
be anywhere in his proximity for hundreds and hundreds of years. And that's not considered cruel. But her being openly, selfish and denying, or not denying, but forswearing motherhood and her love for her family and everything in between, that's where you draw the line. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think a woman could be a great villain too. So if they're giving her a villain turn, I'm here for it. I love this character so far.
Yes, I love this lioness, Gabrielle. I
Mhm.
love
Yeah.
it. Or even we discussed that she might even be non-binary in this context. So
Mhm.
whatever way she's portraying herself or acting as herself, I love it. I love that Gabrielle is being portrayed this way. She feels more real to me.
I'm looking forward to the moment where she takes advantage of the agent/lawyer.
Yeah. Yes.
Christine.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be great. They would be two lionesses just going at it.
I feel like Christine would be an excellent vampire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's kind of already vampiric without having the blood.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what about you, Billy? Did you have a third highlight?
Just a small one. Baby Jinx being vamped out. At the beginning of the
Mhm.
series or of the season, she's not, and now she is. And I did not expect her, whoever she was marrying, to be Bruce of all people. And
Mhm.
so I was a little like, at first I was like, oh, so they're just gonna make her like a little one-off fan. But then now she's actually coming into her actual character from the book.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I like that. Let's see what happens next.
So I kind of figured, well, yeah, I guessed that she was marrying Bruce because when Lestat is with her on the elevator, I think he touches her neck and she has killer
Oh,
tattooed on her neck, but it's kill her instead of killer.
right.
But I'm like, killer. Because I did know that Bruce would be coming back to this season. They put him in the trailers. So I'm like, and when she says, I'm getting married in a week, I'll never forget you. I'm like, oh, I bet I know who she's marrying. And it was funny because I think I saw someone else point this out, but both Louis and Armand and Gabriella ruined someone's wedding night because obviously Louis ruins Baby Jenks and Killer Bruce's wedding night, and Lestat and Gabriella ruined that couple that's taking pictures in front of the skyscape of Toronto, which
I
I
love
got a kick out of that one. There,
I
he's
laugh
looking
so
through the
hard.
pictures,
Yes.
and Gabriella
She's all
photobombs him, and there's blood on the camera. That's what I love so much about this show. Is like so much of it could be really dark and devastating, and then a lot of it is just humorous, high camp melodrama.
hmm
And maybe that's what some people don't like about it, but I'm like, this show has been that way since the beginning. It's just they turned up the volume on the humor this year, but the past few seasons have had a lot of humor to them.
Well, if you keep it just dark and moody, it's going to be very one note. You need to have variety in the energy of the show.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so much fun to watch.
Mhm.
And my third was the backstory of Nikki and Lestat. I really liked the performance by Joseph Potter, especially when he is confronting Lestat and he says, "I want you to love me enough to give it to me." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I can see why Lestat breaks down then and gives him the gift because he's just so sad. He's like a sad puppy, just asking for some attention. And it's like you gave it to her, and I do love the part where he realizes like he knows there's something up with Gabriella. She came to Paris sick, and now she's fine, and she should have probably been dead weeks ago.
Right.
And then he starts saying something, and she says it before it even comes out of his mind. So he realizes like I think he says to Lestat, "What kind of witchery have you put on her?"
Right.
So he knows something paranormal is going on. And we get this thing with Lestat saying Nikki was his first love, but not a great love. And I don't know if he is also being dismissive and flippant when he says that, because you can tell like they really love each other when they first meet. They like hop into bed with each other, and really, AMC, we couldn't have gotten a few more minutes of that. It was looking real cute, but we kind of like Lestat immediately cuts that scene off, and just the part where after he's turned and he cuts off his hand, he's just looking at Lestat with such desperation, and I've never seen Lestat look so sad and lost. Like he just didn't know what to do with Nikki, and it made
Yep.
me so sad. And let's see. Yes, my last point was Lestat's reasons for making fledglings. He is a young vampire at this point. In fact, I think it's only been a week or so when Gabriella shows up on his door.
Yep.
And he apparently had no training from Magnus, so he doesn't really understand. And he goes and first makes a fledgling out of despair because he doesn't want his mother to die, and he figures he's got this gift he can give her. And then he makes a fledgling out of guilt because he's guilted by Nikki that he has this gift that he's keeping from Nikki. And I'm like, both of those turned out to not be what he expected. Both times he thought he would get a companion that would love him for the rest of eternity, and Gabriella saw it as freedom, and she was able to, use it as a way to create a life for herself. And she made it quite clear that she didn't want to belong to anyone. And Nikki was just not mentally prepared to be given the dark gift, and he just
Yep.
descends into his own madness. So I think when he finally finds Louis in New Orleans, he figures he's found a fledgling worthy of his dark gift.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think Louis stays with him the longest.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was my last thought on that. Is I loved the Nikki and Lestat scenes and getting to see, even if it was short, I like getting to get that bit of his backstory.
Are you guys ready for the quotes, notes, and needle ropes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Sure.
actually excited about mine because I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a long time. So, but first I'll go with my first one, which is towards the when he's doing the initial interview. He says he's talking about his relationship with Nicola. He says it goes where you think it goes. All the old tropes and trapes of forbidden love, blah blah blah. Bipolar boyfriend, blah blah blah. I just could not stop laughing at that. And then my second one, so I took an advanced French in high school growing up, and one of the challenges for extra credit was to memorize a French tongue twister. And so it's funny because when Daniel asked him, "Were you a stutterer as a child?" he goes on to say, he was until he was 29, and then he uh, got out of it, and he did it. He starts reciting a tongue twister, and the tongue twister he recites, I had not heard in a long, long time. And I started laughing when I heard it. It's like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this. So I'm gonna try it. It's been a long time. Hopefully I get through it without stopping or stuttering. So I'm gonna try it. Okay. Simon ton 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 sera tendu.
Very good. Tie down.
Awesome.
And in English it means if my uncle shaves your uncle will be shaven. And I did get the extra credit points for that when I was in school. So,
You get extra credit points now too, Billy.
Yeah,
yay.
really.
And I think some people didn't catch that was how he got rid of his stutter, because I had heard some people thinking it was because he turned into a vampire that he got rid of his stutter, but it was just good old-fashioned vocal exercises in the
Yes.
theater.
And
Well,
see, maybe that kind of goes back to what we said about like if you turn into a vampire in your older age, if some of your chronic pain stays.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But anyways, I had
Oh,
one
go
more.
ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I love the when Louis cuts off the head of the vampire in the yard, and he's looking at his face. He goes, "Is that a Jar Jar Binks dunking at basketball?"
That was a good one too. Oh, wow, these writers are so clever. I want them to write my day-to-day script so I can go around with cheeky comments to say to people. I just love the fact that music saves Lestat. After he has his delusions of Magnus and he crashes his car, he climbs out of his what is it? Um, is it a Mustang? I think it's a Mustang.
Maybe, yeah.
Not a car person, but I think that's what
I
he
wasn't
had.
paying attention.
He crawls out of it, and he said that, he says to the audience, you wonder why that didn't end there on the highway, but he said he loved the music. And, as people who love music, I can see how, music can change you. You can have a
Yeah.
horrible day and you turn on music and it sort of saves you. And in this, the music saves Lestat. He's next performing on the stage, and he performs the song "The Loneliness," which I thought was really beautiful. Like, this totally embodies Lestat's constant battle of trying to fight this loneliness that he has inside of him, which stemmed obviously from an early age, living in an abusive family with a neglectful and cold mother he's the only one who he's trying to direct his love to, and her love is kind of neglect, but at least she's not beating him. Um, but he's on the stage there, and once his ghosts and Gabriella, who's not a ghost but she's in attendance at the concert, they all start walking out of the back doors. First Magnus leaves, then Gabriella. I don't know if Nikki leaves, but he's still there. And then it feels like that's when Lestat finally becomes free, and he like gets so deep into the music, I think he just starts floating, and I don't even know if he realizes he's doing it. But I think that was like the music just starting to save him. So I really liked that part. I love that Delaney's back, and I'm glad that they were able to write her into the script, and I'll be looking for hints to see if she's going to be kind of covering the role of Merrick,
Interesting.
like you
That would
mentioned,
be-
Billy.
That would be actually really cool if she became, well, because in Merrick, Louis talks to the ghost, quote unquote, ghost of Claudia. And
Mhm.
that's what I was referring to. But maybe if she actually is the character Merrick in general, that would be cool as well.
Yes, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that part where he sees Claudia's ghost that in Merrick that is the callback in the show. And just a couple of quotes that I love. When he's talking about Daniel, Lestat says, he led a brief and incidental life as a vampire. And I think they are trying to drop hints here and there that Daniel Malloy's vampiric life is going to be greatly shortened.
Mm.
They've been dropping some hints. I think in the first episode, Baby Jinx, when she's talking to Lestat up on the ceiling, she says, "Oh, he dies bad." So I'm thinking they're leaving us hints that Daniel Malloy is not long for this world.
Mm.
And then Lestat's like sassy comeback after he tricks Daniel is, what can I say? Serving cunt has its consequences. And when he sees Magnus in the car, he says, "Same rags, same smell. No hope for you, Father Mags." Just some great writing. And
Yeah.
my only last note is our female characters. And like I said, I absolutely love Gabriella, but one of the problems I had with last season is that I mean, all the characters are three-dimensional, so all the characters are given really great personalities and really rich character development. But our poor ladies always seem to end up getting the short end of the stick
Yeah.
because what was Antoinette dead, Claudia dead. um, Ma- oh, I'm forgetting her name. Not Marguerite.
Madeline.
Madeleine dead. Gabriella villainous, and we'll see what happens with Regina. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping for some maybe better outcomes for some of our ladies on the show.
Like
I did not notice
extend
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any notes or anything from you, Mark?
Not really. Just the loving of the music as it's coming out. Every episode, new songs. The Loneliness, written by the show's composer Daniel Hart and performed by Sam Reed. Obviously, everybody go check out the Spotify playlist that's out there for the Vampire Lestat. He is a music artist on Spotify, so follow it, listen to it. You're going to get more as it comes out, obviously, as the show keeps going and growing. And obviously, look out for merch because I'm sure AMC is going to put out a whole album at the end of the season.
Oh, I'm hoping. I'm waiting to get my hands on a vinyl.
Yeah.
And my favorite
Ooh.
song that they've written so far, Your Biggest Fan, was in this episode, and I forgot to put it in the needle ropes. But yeah, Your Biggest Fan, my favorite song so far.
Yep.
So moving on to how to get in touch with us.
Oh,
I'll
hold
cover
on.
this one.
Feedback.
Oh, wait. Oh, we do. Yes, we do have one quick little note.
Our co-host Danny's favorite quote: "There's not enough room in this box for your desperation."
Very true.
So if you'd like to get in touch with us, go to our brand new Facebook page or Instagram page, facebook.com/the vamp_cast podcast. Or you can get a hold of us on Instagram at the Vampcast podcast. There you will find images of the topics that we're going to cover, and leave a comment if you can within the thread so that we can read them on this episode or any of the upcoming ones when we record. You can also email us at thevampcast143@gmail.com. You can send a regular email there, or you can send a recording of your thoughts and we'll pop it into the podcast as we record to include you in the conversation. Plus, try to answer any questions that you have. If you subscribe to Apple Podcasts and there is a review available, please leave us one as it helps us to get noticed. You can also tell a friend, since word of mouth is always the best, and you can tell them where we can be heard, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or whatever podcast player of choice is out there. We can be found on it.
That's our coverage of Season 1 of The Vampire Lestat, Episode 3, Toronto. Next week, we'll be covering Episode 4, The Devil's Road. If you're interested in Book Talk, we'll be covering that after our sign-off. But for now, I am Billy with an IE.
I'm Lara.
And Mark.
And this has been Vampcast. Thanks
Thanks
for
for
listening.
listening.